So first off we had the Evercade EXP, the white version, and that came complete with the inbuilt Capcom games. And we also had the black Founders Edition, and pretty much the same thing but obviously in a different colour. Now no doubt very nice handhelds, I've really enjoyed my EXP, however they were heavily flawed, had poor battery life, had some light bleed. The initial carts didn't fit very well, and also the sound was a little bit problematic as well, and issues with charging. There was all sorts of flaws with these sort of handhelds. So have they improved anything with the new Evercade EXP-R? Let's find out. Hi guys, welcome to Crazy Burger. So finally we've got our hands on the Evercade EXP-R, the slightly upgraded version of the EXP. Not sure what the R stands for, could be Redux, Redo, haven't got a clue. Blaze just didn't say what that actually meant. Could mean absolutely nothing. So it was supposed to be released back in July, then August, and then finally the end of November 2024, which is the time of this video. Does come complete with the Tomb Raider Collection 1, Tomb Raider 1, 2 and 3, the PlayStation versions, and it's got a 16 rating on that, but it's pretty much suitable for everyone really. Yeah, I'm looking forward to getting this in our hands. Now it was delayed for some reason that we're really not sure what that was. Blaze didn't say. Some issues with the units in the factories, they obviously had to withdraw it from sale before it obviously went on sale. And then it got delays, so finally we've got our hands on it. Hopefully it sorts out a few of the issues of the other EXPs that were released a couple of years ago. But anyway, we've got all the details there. You can add scan line filters, safe states. It's got a lovely sort of screen, IPS screen. It's really nice, and you've got the Tate Mode and you can play it in vertical style. Now I've not got one of the holders that was released at the same time. I've got another alternative that I can show in the video as well, but you can expand your Evercade library as well with all of these games. Now the Tomb Raider games are not actually inbuilt to the unit. Now the original EXP had the Capcom games, they are completely removed now, and that license was gone, hence the fact we're basically getting a new handheld. There'll be no inbuilt games. Tomb Raider basically comes in an included cartridge inside the box. There's not an awful lot more detail in the box, but yeah, without further ado, let's get this thing opened up. First thing that greets us is the manual safety information. We've got a quick start guide as well if you want to peruse that. Now probably something worth noting here is hold down the power button for 2 seconds to turn it on. You can't just press it and it should turn on, but funnily enough the EXP that I had just needed a slight brush and it would actually turn on inside the case, which was an absolute pain. But yeah, there's some information there, you probably want to peruse that if you're a first time buyer, and so all the information to do with the lights, charging, fully charged, low battery, that type of thing. But anyway, let's sort of carry on to the actual handheld itself. And here we have it, the EXP-R. It feels really nice. Actually it feels a little bit different. The quality of the finishing on the front seems different. It's not quite as rough. It feels more metallic than the other EXPs. And oh, the D-pad feels very different as well. That's intriguing. Now I'll leave the sort of details of the actual EXP-R on the screen if you're interested in that, but definitely the design is a lot less subtle. And maybe it looks a little bit more retro than the actual white version. You've got the sort of added blue sort of buttons there. It would have been nice maybe add a little bit of colour, just like the original handheld that had that sort of white and red look, but give that kind of retro feel. Now on the bottom here you've got your headphone jack, you've got the Tate Mode button. Now that definitely feels different as well. That's obviously been redesigned. I guess that one of the issues that they may have had might have related to the actual grips. Or the Tate grip, because that button is definitely different to the other EXP. This part of the bottom I'm sure is the speaker on this side. No doubt about it, those buttons are different. This is your charging slot here, it's USB-C, and you've got your volume up and down button here. That's basically the same. Not a big fan of these buttons here, and this is your charging light. And there's a speaker on the other side as well. And obviously on the other side we have shoulder buttons too. Now they definitely feel different as well. There's a lot more softer feel to them. Yeah, obviously still a bit clicky, but they feel a lot softer to the touch. So this was where the HDMI slot was. It's now some sort of vent, and this is your on-off switch here. It seems a little bit bigger as well, which is interesting. So hopefully that will help the unit stay cool, because one of the main problems with the EXP, it hit up something awful. You could fry an egg on the original sort of handheld, but yeah, some nice grippy feelings here, and there's more vents on the back here that I recall, and more space. So hopefully a few of these issues will be sorted. I am very impressed so far of the design. So just having a quick look at the EXP side by side, and these buttons definitely feel different. The D-pad, maybe it's just my imagination, but the D-pad does feel different, but maybe it's just my imagination. I could be wrong. They definitely feel a lot different to me. That maybe the design is different, but you can see that the sort of button for the Tate Mode is definitely a little bit different. And do you know what, I may be imagining things, I'm not entirely sure. You can see we are now missing the HDMI slot at the top here on that unit. It's now some sort of vent, and on the back we did have these vents in that one here, so that's not really that much different at all. Maybe I was just imagining it. So you can see the differences aren't really as much as maybe I thought. They've changed sort of the styling here. We've got the vents still here, they are still the same. We've lost this part here. There's a slightly grippier feel to this part, but the rest of it is completely smooth. But yeah, most of it is the same. Maybe it's just my imagination that the buttons are different. I definitely think there's a softer feel to these buttons on the new EXPR. I could be completely wrong, but they have a softer feel than this one. Maybe I'm just imagining it could be exactly the same for all I know, because it's still a clicky sort of menu button and there. But yeah, I think the proof will be in the pudding with the sort of battery life. Will it heat up as much? So what I'm going to do now is get it charged up. I'm going to play through it quite a bit, and I will come back with my findings. So also in the box there's obviously a copy of Tomb Raider. That's a cart, and there is the charge cable. That is basically it. There's nothing else in the box, completely empty. You will need to sort yourself a USB plug, but it's a USB-C to USB charging cable and the Tomb Raider cart. That is it. There's nothing else in the box. Okay guys, so some time has now passed since we last saw you. Obviously for you it's real time. For me it's been probably 24 hours, and I've had a chance to play a few things, had the chance to check out the battery life, and now I'm really just going to give you my findings of what I have discovered with the Evercade EXP-R. And basically I am just comparing this to the old models rather than doing like a new review. So this might be different depending on your experience with the Evercade EXPs. It is very weird for me not seeing the inbuilt Capcom games on here. You've got your cartridge scene. Obviously you put your cartridge on the top as normal, and then you've got your EXP. This is where the game of the month will be. At the moment is Batty Isabella. Now when you turn it on for the first time, you'll probably have to update your EXP, and you'll get the latest firmware. That's definitely important. Try and keep up with that, so you've got the latest updates. And we've got hidden games in here as well. Now I'm not really going to go through that in this video. I have covered this numerous times, and if you're interested in wanting to know what these hidden games are, there is a website called evercade.info, and it has all the details if you want to unlock it or try and discover it all by yourself. We've also got the browse carts section, and this basically goes through all the carts available for Evercade, arcade, computer, console as well, or just all. There are tons available, 63 carts already. You've also got a little bit of news on the upcoming carts. Basically that's the 4 carts that are going to be available end of November and into December, although if you're lucky enough you may already have all 4 right now. And there is also a big section there on all 543 games available on Evercade if you want to browse that and maybe see if there's anything that takes your fancy, if you want to buy some new collections if you're new to Evercade. And now onto the settings here. You can mess about with the display. You've got original ratio, pixel perfect, full screen. For the best part I'll probably just leave it at original ratio. I generally don't touch pixel perfect. I don't see the point. It doesn't really help. It usually makes the screen a lot smaller. So you'll probably mix between full screen and original ratio. You can choose to turn scan lines on or off, or even strong.
That's really quite cool for arcade games, but other than that I probably leave it off most of the times. You can choose between the different bezels, basically the side of the screen when you're playing a game. If you have got black borders, you've got a few different options there that you can scroll through. You can also have Tate bezels as well for your Tate Mode style games. That's quite cool, I guess, if you don't want to obviously put up with those big massive black borders. But with the Evercade EXP-R, you're going to be playing your Tate Mode games surely like this. It's the best way to play them. Now you can also change the dynamic rate control. This is probably more so for, I think, the home computer games, so that they're make sure they're playing at the right sort of speed, like 50 Hz I believe it should be. We've got the brightness options. I really just leave that at the maximum settings. Now I've noticed there is a new section at the bottom here, jump sections, so you can just hold left and right and it will jump between the sections. I don't remember that being on here, not sure if it's new or just something that's been added recently, but it's quite nice. You can also add scan lines to the menu. Now something I've noticed that's missing, not sure when this got removed, was the ability to have the sort of EXP go into sleep, because I think on my other EXP, if I left it for a little while, it would go into a sort of sleep mode. It was still working, but it was just basically the screen would turn off. I don't think that option is on here anymore. I haven't actually seen it. Now you can also change your theming. Really, you can choose whichever one takes your fancy. There's the sound here. We'll touch on sound in a little minute as well. Network, basically you connect to your Wi-Fi. There is also an airplane mode, which is quite handy if you're using this on an airplane. Accessibility, this is a toggle high contrast mode. Basically it's very high contrast. If you've got poor eyesight, it surely should help. That's your language options. System, check for updates. Force patch cartridge, if you've got any issues with your cart, sometimes this option works and maybe forces a patch to it and may revive your cartridge if something goes wrong. Legal and support is just a list of all the sort of copyrights for the different games that are on Evercade, and also the credits is a list of all the people that worked on the Evercade EXP-R project. I love the music in this section, it's brilliant. Anyway, and the secrets, basically you can go in here for the secrets regarding downloading the secret games that we obviously just covered. I will actually reveal one of them, and this one is this 4-letter word blop, and it will, if you press the start button, it will unlock this game, The Lost Mines. Now this is a natively running game, which means it's running specifically on the Evercade rather than actual emulation, and it's actually a really nice game. I'm not going to play it just now, but once you unlock the hidden games, it goes to this section here. You can see you've now got 1 out of 9 hidden games. Some of the hidden games are a combination of buttons on your D-pad and on the controllers here, and maybe even the shoulder buttons. Some of them you'll have to put in more codes into that secret section. Hopefully we'll see a lot more secret games added as well, which would be really nice. Okay guys, so on to what you're probably waiting for. What is the Evercade EXP-R like? Now, I'll cover the basics here. The buttons are really nice. I'm not sure if they're actually different to the other EXP. It just kind of feels different. There's a different texture feel to the D-pad and the buttons. I'm not sure if they're trying to put some sort of a... It's like a texture. I'm not sure you're going to be able to see that at all, but there is a slight texture on the surface here and on the D-pad and on the other buttons as well. Obviously, the back of it is a little bit grippy. And that is quite nice. It does have a very good feel to it, although I felt my finger actually slide more on this D-pad than it ever did on the original EXP, which I thought was a little bit weird, especially when you're playing some of those sort of shoot-em-ups when you're trying to move your ship side to side. It just felt a bit weird, but otherwise everything is absolutely the same. It is fine. The buttons feel nice and soft and very reactive. Shoulder buttons feel great as well. I do like the colour scheme with the added blue. It is really cool. It's almost like a plasticky metallic finish. It does look very, very nice. Although the only thing I don't like about it is obviously if you've got your Evercade carts and you put your Evercade carts in here, as I'll show you an example. Obviously this would be the Tomb Raider cart. When you put it in here, you can see it's obviously a different colour to the actual Evercade EXP-R. Not ideal. The original Evercade EXP was white as well, so it blended nicely with the cartridge, but with this it doesn't really blend, but it is what it is. There's nothing you can do about it. And as you can see, the carts are a little bit tight to get out. So far I found the cartridge fitting quite tight. Not excessively so, but the first cart I actually tried was the two-a-plan collection, and it was a little bit stiff going in. I'm not sure if that will ease over time. Usually these things do, but what I'm going to try now is actually the original Atari collection, which was a nightmare to get in and out on the original Evercade EXP. Okay, so this is the original Atari Collection 1. Now this was quite tight on the Evercade EXP because the sizes of the cartridges just wasn't a perfect fit for some reason. A little bit of a fail of the original EXP, but let's have a quick look. Now that's obviously going in absolutely fine. I think there is some small gaps on the side, so that the fitting is fine, but I found some other carts were tricky to get in and out, and as you can see, this one is absolutely fine, but the new cart to a plan was a little bit tricky. As you can see, the Tomb Raider one seems a little bit more snug, which is a bit bizarre. I thought these would be fine, but I guess a little bit of wear and tear and stuff like in and out, it should be absolutely fine. So thankfully, it's not really a major problem for any of the cart fittings. I think just first usage, you might find it's a little bit snug, but after that it should be absolutely fine. Okay, so the next subject I want to cover is the light bleeding. Now, in the original Evercade EXP, the light bleed was horrific down this bottom here, especially on the white version. It was also on the black version, the Founders Edition. But glad to say that the light bleed is not, or no longer visible in this section down here. But unfortunately it is absolutely horrific down the bottom of the screen. Now I'm going to have to dim the lights to show you this. Now I didn't dim the lights when I was playing this last night. I was just playing in a sort of dimly lit room in my living room, and obviously it's quite dark at this time of year anyway, and it showed up something awful, and I was actually really disappointed. But anyway, let me dim the lights so I can actually show you what I'm talking about. Okay, so this might be a bit extreme right in the darkness, but it wasn't completely dark when I was actually doing playing the games last night. But you can clearly see down in the bottom, left and right, there is a lot of light bleed. Now I took a couple of sort of photographs last night on sort of reasonable light in my living room, and it was really bad. You can see it's right at the bottom of the screen. The viewing angles are absolutely fine, but you can definitely see down the bottom there is terrible light bleed down the bottom of the screen here, and it becomes quite apparent when you're actually playing some games as well, which can be a little bit off-putting. Now, as you can see here, you can quite clearly see left and right the light bleed on the screen, which is really quite alarming. As you can see, it does change depending on the lighting of the screen, but it is really off-putting sometimes when you're actually playing the games, which isn't ideal. But anyway guys, I'll move on from this section. You can see there is definitely light bleed, and it is pretty bad at times depending on what you're playing and how dark it is, but during the day, gladly, it's not really as noticeable. Okay, so this is obviously back to standard light, you'll be glad to know, but that light bleed can be an absolute pain, especially in sort of dull lighting. But I guess if you're playing during the day in better lighting, you probably won't notice it as much, but sadly that was something that just came straight at me as soon as I turned the EXP on. No more light bleed down here, but lots of light bleed down the bottom, and you'll probably sort of come and go depending on what game you're actually playing. It might be actually better if I change the background here, perhaps not to see it as badly, but sadly it is a thing, and it was very noticeable. Moving on to something else I want to discuss, and that would be the sound. Now, sound wise, I thought it differed. I felt that the maximum sound on the EXP wasn't particularly great. Now there is two speakers which are basically down the bottom of the unit here. As you can see, it's down the bottom on either side, and I feel sometimes it can, obviously if you're holding it like that, you basically muffle the sound. I think it would have been better if there was maybe some speakers on the front or something, but I just don't think the Evercade EXP has ever had great sound. It definitely varies from time to time. Gladly you can't turn it completely silent, but the maximum sound of the games isn't great. Now if I put in the Tomb Raider cart, this will probably be quite obvious when you're playing. Some games the sound is better than others, like you probably heard Batsigan was okay. It wasn't like crazy loud at the maximum sound, but Tomb Raider seems quite quiet to me. It just, I don't know, it's just not, it just doesn't sound as loud as it really should be. I really don't think the sound is overly impressive at all. Now that was the same with my other EXP. I felt that the sound is just, I don't know, it leaves a lot to be desired. It should be a lot louder. Now some games are a bit louder than others, but I've just felt at times, especially with some games, it just didn't sound right at all. And it's not awful, but it's not great at the same time either. It should be much louder than this. That's a great game. I've absolutely loved playing through Tomb Raider again on Evercade, and I'm currently still playing through the second one. I've had to abandon it a little bit. It was nowhere near as fun, but the first game, absolutely superb, an iconic PlayStation title, and still an amazing game to play now. Hopefully you enjoy it as much as I do, and there are obviously the remastered versions are out there as well, but this is just the original PlayStation with a little bit of tweaks to the gamma picture so that some scenes are not quite as dark. And this is the best way of defeating this guy, just jump left to right. It's boring, but it works. And just like that, he's gone. Now, something else that's quite obvious if you have an original EXP, that it overheats something awful, and glad to say that this does not overheat anywhere near as bad as the original. Now, the heat is generally at the back, especially if you take out the cart and touch that sort of metal part. It is very, very warm, and even the cart itself can be warm. On the original EXP, you could almost fry an egg on the back of it. But glad to say that this unit, it does heat up, but it doesn't overheat. It's quite obvious that it's nowhere near as hot as the original EXP. I always thought that there was something wrong with the original EXP, the way it's overheating them. It's so hot, it's ridiculous. But glad to say they've definitely solved that issue. I guess this extra vent at the top and maybe something at the back here has made a massive difference, and it definitely doesn't heat up anywhere near as bad. So that is a nice plus point to here. Now, the other thing obviously worth talking about is battery life. The EXP that I had, I was only getting 2 hours out of the original EXP, and also the Founders Edition. It really didn't help. I actually got a replacement white EXP, and it really didn't get any better. I think maximum I was getting just over 2 hours. But yeah, my first playthrough with this, I got about 3 hours 20 minutes battery life. Now, that's not spectacular, but it's an improvement. But it's not spectacular. I think Blaze were actually advertising that it should get at least 4 to 6 hours playtime. Maybe that'll vary. But my first playthrough, and this was already in full charge, I completely charged it before I tried it. I only got 3 hours 20 minutes playtime, which isn't spectacular, but it's definitely better than the other EXP. So whether that's enough of an improvement for you to actually warrant another purchase, or maybe this is your new purchase, I'm not so sure. There's no doubt that the original white version was very, very flawed. Perhaps they fixed some of the issues through time, but I'm not sure they've made enough changes to this version. It certainly still overheats, but nowhere near as bad. The sound is still pretty rubbish at times. Battery life is better, but not spectacular. All the carts fit nicely, I guess that's a nice thing. But yeah, it's got a few flaws still. The light bleed is probably worse than it was before, which is kind of crazy. They've obviously covered up this section and stopped that light bleed, but they've then probably caused the light bleed to go onto the actual screen, which is a little bit concerning, and I was a little bit disappointed with that. So I guess another point is to be clear here that they have took away the mini HDMI out, and we've got this now little vent. If you're going to play these games on your TV, you cannot do it with this version of the EXP, and you can't play the Capcom games either. That license has now gone. So there's certainly a few minus points to this EXP over the white or black Founders Edition. Okay guys, so I thought I'd better check the actual sound through the headphone jack, because that was a problem with the original EXP as well. It didn't recognise a lot of standard headphones. Now these are just your standard headphones that you'll get for phones or other devices. They're just in-ear headphones. I'm going to check out the sound with these sort of headphones, and you can probably hear this. I don't know if you can maybe pick that up, but putting those headphones in, the sound is absolutely blaring, really, really loud. You can probably hear that even now, which is absolutely insane. But when you take out the actual headphones themselves, the sound is okay. It's just not spectacular, which is a bit weird. It does vary from game to game, but yeah, it does seem a lot louder now, which is a bit bizarre. Now guys, no doubt one of the best features about the EXP was the Tate Mode, and the button is basically on the bottom here. All you need to do is press that button and you can then play these games as they were meant to be played this way. Sadly though, the start and select buttons are up here, and you're stuck to 2 buttons for playing the games, which are obviously these 2 buttons here. One's for your bomb, one is for firepower.
I'm not sure if they've mapped the turbo fire to this now. I couldn't really tell, but it felt like it was mapped as the turbo fire. Maybe there's an option to change that, don't really know. So you got your bomb. No, it's not. Or is it? No, it's fine, it's just me. So that's probably one thing that's missing a little bit is turbo fire option if you want to play it in the Tate Mode style. But there's no doubt playing this way is brilliant for all these sort of shoot 'em ups or any of the games that are in this aspect ratio. Also, Evercade have released the sort of Tate vertical stand. Now, I don't have that, but I have an alternative, and have to say it does make a massive difference, and it makes the games a lot more comfortable to play this way. Because I think through maybe 20 minutes, 30 minutes playing this handheld like this, it does get a little bit sore. The sort of holder is probably a little bit like this one, where you put the handheld in such like that and then you play. It does make a massive difference to playing these games. So if you love your Tate Mode style games, probably worthwhile investing in one of these sort of holders to play your games. So there are absolutely tons of carts and games available for Evercade now, and this is two of the latest ones as well. I've done plenty of videos on the different carts that are available and the best ones, the best games, so I'll leave some links in the description if you are new to Evercade, and you can follow that and probably get an idea of the best ones to pick up. But obviously that does vary from person to person. A game that I might not like or a cart I might not like, you might find absolutely brilliant. So take what I say with a pinch of salt. So now that we've moved on to another game, you can the sound is probably a little bit quieter than the arcade games. This is a Genesis game. It's not awful, but it's not as loud as it should really be, which is definitely a disappointing feature of these devices. But you can tell the viewing angles are absolutely superb on these handhelds. A massive improvement over the original handheld. So if you're still on the fence and you've still got an original handheld, it probably is worthwhile upgrading to this one. But if you've got a white EXP, I'm not so sure it's worthwhile upgrading, to be honest. Now this is some of the new games and carts that I've been playing in this video. I will do separate videos on these if you're interested, and I'll cover these in full in longer, lengthier videos so you get an idea of what they're actually like. But sneak peek, most of the carts released are pretty decent for November and December. Now don't forget guys, if you are new to Evercade, you can press the menu button here and you can get access to your save states. If you want to save your progress, you just click save and then choose a slot. You can also delete it as well. You can also load in a save state if you've created one. And just remember which one it is. They do usually add some timestamps. There are controls in here. You can edit these if you want to. If you don't like the controls, if you go back to the main menu, you can edit through the actual controls. But that's it. You can reset the game or quit right back to the main menu. If you want to edit controls in games, go to the sort of three buttons there. You can put a coin limit on if you're playing arcade games. You can play in competition mode, which basically means playing the games without access to save states. And in this section you can edit the controls for any game that you like, which is a really nice touch as well, which is fantastic. But yeah, you've got controls listed here, and you also have stats for how long you've played certain games, that type of thing. Probably useless information, but it's there if you want to peruse it. Now this game is Knuckle Bash from To A Plan Arcade 4. It's kind of a beat 'em up come wrestling come beat 'em up style game. It's actually really good fun. It sounds a little bit rough, but that is basically just a game. That's very cool, no doubt about it. Okay guys, so to summarise the Evercade EXP-R, now there's no doubt I think this is a really nice design. I think this might be my favourite version of the Evercade EXP-R. I love the sort of almost metallic look and feel to it, and the buttons are nice. That just gives it that slight retro feel. It's definitely one of their nicest handhelds that they've done, but it's still very heavily flawed. There's no doubt about it. It still overheats, but it's nowhere near as bad as the original, so they have made improvements there. Battery life is a little bit better, but it's still not the advertised 4 to 6 hours that you should be getting from this. Hopefully that improves, but I really don't see it happening. I think I got a solid 3 hours 20 minutes from it, which really, it's not bad, but it's not great. It takes about 2 to 3 hours to actually charge as well. It's got a nice screen, there's no doubt about it, but
sadly, we still have a lot of sort of a light bleed at the bottom of the screen here. We don't have any light bleed across this section here, but now it's now seeping onto the bottom of the screen. Now for the best part, you probably won't see it, but when it is poorer light, and maybe you're sitting in the living room at this time of the year, it is quite dark, you'll probably notice it quite badly, and it is very disappointing when you see it. But for the best part, some of the game you probably won't see it, especially during the day. It's probably not noticeable, but when you do see it, it's very difficult to not see it, which is, no, it's kind of crazy. The sound itself is all over the place. I felt some games are good, some games are not. That's not an improvement. That's basically carried on from the other EXP as well. Gladly though, the sound via the headphones is superb, so it might be the best way of playing some of the games. Which is a bit bizarre. Tate Mode is fantastic, does get a little bit painful through excessive use, but it's still really nice, especially I guess if you get the new Tate grip, which is available now. It definitely helps make the gaming a little bit more comfortable playing it that way. Everything about the device, the buttons are nice. There's a slightly different texture feel to it. The D-pad is perfect, it really is nice. But yeah, I'm still a little bit disappointed that it didn't improve a lot of the aspects that we've been through in this video. So I'm on the fence. If you've obviously been holding out and if you've got one of the older EXPs and thinking, I'll just wait because this one's going to be better, it really isn't. It's not a massive improvement, it's just slight improvement. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. I hope we don't get any more variations of this, to be honest. I think the next variation we get has to be massively improved. Considering the quality of the Alpha and the Super Pocket recently, they've obviously learned from their lessons and made some great devices. I just don't think they've made a great EXP. And sadly, this is probably the best way for playing a lot of the games. I really enjoy playing my EXP, but it does pain me to say that some of the aspects are nowhere near as good as they should be. If you've got an original Evercade and think about upgrading, maybe this is the time for you to upgrade. I don't think the EXP is going to get any better than it is right now. But anyway guys, thanks for watching. If you've got an EXPR, let me know what you think of it, and if you've experienced any of the same things or different things that I haven't actually highlighted in the video. Thanks very much for watching, and we'll catch you again in the next one. Bye for now. Something I probably forgot to mention is the loading times for PlayStation games seems a lot faster for some reason on this. I think I played this recently on the Alpha and the older EXPs, and the loading times are pretty bad for PlayStation games, but Tomb Raider was nowhere near as bad. It loaded in after maybe 10, 15, 20 seconds or something, so it's definitely improved.